Lost sight of. Lost sight of the person I once had wanted to become. Got comfortable with seeing bulldozers roaring everywhere I went. Got used to living in a greedy plastic land of marketing make-believe. Gave up on those homemade love-based back-to-the-land juvenile delusions. Forgot completely about swimming in clean water anymore. Grew able to ignore the dirty air since I was always behind closed windows. Lost connection to the land, but tuned right into the stock markets. Came out of the forest and became a temporary stain on the pavement. Stopped looking for some small footprint, self-sustaining lifestyle. Lost sight of the ideals that were instilled in me so long ago. Grew to find happiness in buying cheap new imports and saving nothing. Quit walking in the woods but made new trails with my noisy dirt bike. Learned to look for speculative potential behind all undeveloped land. Adopted a conservatism which promoted exploitation in all directions. Surrendered happily to every childish urge presented by the media. Succumbed to a fantasy lifestyle financed by expensive credit cards. Gradually lost empathy with the poor and forgot all about the underprivileged. No longer plant trees on Earth Day, but I do know which SUV has the most horsepower. Lost sight of happiness in the endless rush after pleasures I never remember. Look right on through the endless suffering of my less successful brothers. Don't worry about safe, homemade, organic food, because I eat out all the time. Forgot how to think and do not listen to that quiet voice inside anymore either. Don't care that I lost track of the cycles of the moon and the seasons. Remain ignorant of science but freely quote hundreds of Hollywood releases. Gave up on the redwoods and no longer fear for the baby seals. Let the rainforest go, and what good really were those stinking polar bears? Not going back to the land except on my powerful overpriced OHV. No longer question the morality of war if our born-again leaders find it necessary. Quit worrying about a planet that I do not own and cannot control. Learn to overlook my extra 25 pounds double chin and metabolic syndrome. Found it so much easier swimming with the school than against the tide. Gave my children everything in hopes they would always find me cool. Spend thousands on an illusion that I'm not like those who came before me. Lost sight of the person that I'd wanted to become when I finally grew up. Barely noticed that I stay at work too long and commute way too far. Gave up any sense of responsibility for leaving behind a better world. Find it easy to sit semi-comatose flipping channels instead of reading books. Narrowed my broad curiosity into e-toy price comparisons and stock watching. Haven't taken up a new sport or picked up an old one since I don't know when. No longer strive for some kind of mystical connection to any land, weather, or animals. Don't really recognize the person in any of my old pictures. Sometimes try to consider what I might have thought of my new self back then. Caught up in watering, poisoning, fertilizing, and mowing the stupid grass I so detested. Grew embarrassed of recycling when it was deemed to be a sign of weakness. Foolishly dressed like a professional to keep a job I really do not care for. Don't bother checking miles per gallon or tailpipe emissions anymore. Quit worrying where the food comes from or where the garbage goes. Forgot about acid rain, global warming, overpopulation, and toxic chemicals. Convinced now that greed is enshrined in our Constitution and the Bible. Trying to make a difference no longer keeps me awake in the night. Long ago, put down the musical instrument I once found so important. Wake up with thoughts of what I must do at work instead of who I should try to be. Quit living in the moment and simply work for short, mindless breaks. Never walk quietly and all alone in the moonlight anymore. Lost sight of all the reasons I once had to strive for a better world. Focused quite clearly on myself and what the kids want right now. Sometimes wonder who this person is that I married so long ago. Grown quite accustomed to the sight of miles of brand new and identical burbs. Content with family adventure at some new and distant shopping mall. Antidepressants and alcohol help to smooth out the bumps and the glitches. Feel cheated because I didn't spend hours at electronic games like my kids get to do. accepted Jesus as my personal Savior, and abdicated all my rational responsibilities. No longer see well enough to scan those far-off horizons for spiritual clues. Don't bother to stop for the rainbows. I now only see through my windshield. Look forward to salty snacks snatched from cellophane bags. Use my critical thinking skills to analyze overblown corporate sporting events. Pretend to look rich to those just like me on vacations none of us can afford. Dress up on my finance Harley on weekends, insured by the AARP. Expect my accustomed lifestyle from the Social Security I so richly deserve. Paid off my credit cards again by cashing out more unearned home equity. Made big money, leaving the community my kids cannot afford to live in. Lost sight of the great wheel and was thrown off the corporate merry-go-round. Don't feel like that person I don't recognize in unexpected glances in the mirrors. I'm not a litter bug, but I don't recycle since it doesn't really matter. Love my second home, but am mildly appalled by habitat destruction. Take fashion cues from my kids' marketeers, adding lame twists of my own. Quite often need a morning ibuprofen just from sleeping wrong. Don't walk the sidewalks anymore for fear of being seen as squishy. Financed a new and bigger house after the kids simply ruined the old one. Plumbers and electricians, roofers and carpenters make me uneasy. No longer aware of a t-shirt in which the sweat has dried in its place. My search for the unknowable ended in small tithes and a blind trust in Jesus. Staunch my bleeding heart with a swab of social Darwinism. Now we pull together with the tough love of compassionate conservatism. All the attractive women call me sir and recommend what their fathers like to me. Spent the money my parents left me on a facelift and a new sports sedan. Found some drawings I once made but quickly regained my petty focus. Lost sight of stars that had guided me, but not just because of light pollution. No longer see important images in those great western skies. Now I prefer the non-stop empty din of the media culturing peaceful silence within. Would not mind seeing all that empty wilderness if I did not have to walk to get there. Lay in bed trying to figure out ways to make a lot of money real quick. Learn that if I cannot really afford it, at least I can still put it on the credit card.